meeting. We'll start off with the housekeeping. There is no planned fire alarm this evening, so if the alarm does sound, please leave by the nearest fire exit and make your way downstairs and proceed to the meeting point outside Marks and Spencer. Committee services will provide assistance and direction as necessary. I do not plan for a refreshment break this evening, as it is hoped that the business can be concluded in good time. Are there any apologies for absence this evening? I have
yes,
one.
Mr. Mayor, we have apologies from Councillor Scarola and Councillor Taylor.
Yep. I have an apology from Councillor Hall as well. So, any further apologies? We'll move on then to item 2, which is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations to be made this evening? Anyone? No? Thank you. Then we'll move on to agenda item 3, which is the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 11th of February. Do I have your permission to sign those minutes as a true and correct record? Yes, thank you. We'll move on to item 4. I am aware this will be the last council meeting for some of our members who are not standing at the local elections in May. I would like to give the opportunity for group leaders to speak if they wish to do so. Does any of them? Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to put on record my thanks to the councillors in the Labour Group who are, of their own free will, stepping down in 7 weeks' time. Before I do, Mr. Mayor, could I also place on record the sadness of my members, and I'm sure members across the whole chamber, at the sad loss of Gateway FM's Yvonne Williams. I spoke with the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Lawrence, about this prior to tonight's meeting. Yvonne was a force for good in this town, and as was described last week in the media, she had a healthy disdain for authority that enabled her to ask the tough questions. She will be missed by circles that knew her, and on evenings such as this, her absence is keenly felt, and our thoughts and prayers are with her friends at this time. Mr. Mayor, as is custom on the final full council meeting of the municipal year, I do wish to pay tribute to Labour councillors who are standing down. And firstly to Councillor Byron Taylor, who since his election in 2012 served the Labour group in a variety of roles, including as both leader and deputy leader of the group. Our election nights will not be the same without Byron's clipboards and polling district data. But I think that the council owes Byron a far bigger debt of gratitude, given that it was he who led from the front really on trying to make sure that this council was a living wage council. And he first raised that on the floor a few years ago, and I'm grateful that the Chief Executive has found the means to make that a reality, so we are now a living wage council, and Byron deserves great credit for the work that he did on that. Councillor John Scarola is also stepping down. Planning officers will be pleased to hear that. John is a tireless campaigner for the people he represents. He might not always find his way onto the front page of the papers, but week in, week out, he was out in his ward, and he still is for another 7 weeks, asking residents to sign petitions on this issue and that, and ensure that their voices are heard. I know people across the borough that perhaps are not particularly naturally in Labour have recognised John's efforts and are grateful to him, but now he has more grandchildren. He and his wife will be looking forward to him retiring properly, and I wish them both well. And finally, Mr. Mayor, to my running mate in Bitsy, Councillor McGurran, he's also taken the difficult decision to step down and focus his efforts on the Gospel according to the Trinity Mirror. And on this day of all days, when we celebrate St Patrick's Day, it's right I praise a man with equally as Irish a name as I. Aidan, I think, personifies what it is to be a councillor. We all, despite some of our residents thinking we are full-time politicians, we all have full-time jobs. Some of us have full-time jobs, we have other interests, but no matter how busy Aidan has been with his work. He has always been there for people Bitsy North West, turning out at meetings, whether it's Bitsy South East, sorry, I'm North West, Bitsy South East, turning out whether it's weekend or evening meetings, not just at election time, but all year round. He's also, I'm sure you will agree, decorated these meetings with language that is perhaps more akin to an episode of the Royal Family than a Basildon Council chamber. But all of my councillors have exercised or executed their duties with good humour, good grace, and we wish them all the very best in the months and years to come, Mr Mayor. But I also, while I'm on my feet, say something to those members who, from other groups, are stepping down, including Councillor Williams, who is leaving us after decades of service on this council, and wish him all the very best. And just to say, now the niceties are over. For the next 7 weeks, the gloves are off. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Radcliffe.
Thanks, a bit short. Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I think it's certainly myself and Dave Harrison will remember Jack from the old days of Poderick. All the rest of you are relative newcomers, I think, as I look around. And I remember Jack also from the old days of the Langdon Hills Area Committee back in the 1980s. I was chairing that particular meeting. I remember one occasion this council was associated with an organisation called SEEDS, which was the South East Economic Development Strategy Association. Now, at the time, the Labour group, which I was in at the time, of course, was very keen on working the SEEDS, very keen on the council getting involved in economic development. The Conservatives at the time thought that the work of economic development should not be touched by the council. This was a job for businesses to sort out. It's refreshing to know, Mr Mayor, that today this council has got a focus on economic development. Maybe it didn't have that. But anyway, Jeff asked me this question. I wasn't expecting it. And he said, can you tell me what benefit in terms of jobs being a member of SEEDS has done for this country? Oh, well, I was a very new council, so I was chairing the committee. And I just sort of gave him a bluff answer. But this is one of the things with Jack. He's all the time along, he's questioning things, questioning the actions of others, and sought answers that sometimes he's not got them. Our recent relationship as leader and deputy leader of this group, of course, arose as a result of a marriage of convenience between the Green Party and the Liberal Democrats in order for us to secure places for me on planning. Unfortunately, that was short-lived and I soon dubbed off that. But nonetheless, there we go, that's politics. Jeff, of course, has served this council longer than anyone else. And he's served his constituents and indeed the whole community. And I can think I can say magnificently. If today we're looking for Mr Basildon, and I think not with Jeff, to be honest. One of his major campaigns, of course, was his efforts with the gang group to save Broad Street. Many of us here, including, I suspect, some people on the Conservative benches, will regret the decision that was announced this week about the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal was that is concerned. I won't embarrass people by asking them to speak up. But that's one campaign of many that Jeff has been associated with and where he will be missed. I'm sure we're all going to miss Jeff, and I will certainly miss not only his friendship and contributions to debate, but also on occasion his good counsel, and I think that's something that we will all perhaps miss, right across the sort of parties divide. Jeff, of course, now lives in Cornwall. which is adjacent to God's own council, in the UK. And I'm sure we all wish him well in his well-deserved retirement. But I'm sure what will be a loss for the Basildon Liberal Democrats will be a gain for the Cornish Liberal Democrats. And who knows, we might well see him leading a Liberal Democrat and maybe a coalition in the southwest. Anyway, Jeff, best of luck for the future. We wish you good retirement.
Councillor Whitney.
Thank you, Mayor. I thank Phil for his fulsome praise and nice words. Thank you all very much. I'm not listening to very long. It's something like 12 elections, 4 chief executives, I think 9 council leaders. I'll try to trot them up in my mind later that I'm moving on. Phil's right. My first pile of leaflets apparently was delivered on Tuesday. For me. But that's not for a year or so. So yeah, I got back into it down there. My years here have been interesting, and I pay tribute to you all, whoever you are, whichever benches you're sitting on, because we all know the time and the effort that it takes to represent the people who put us where we are. I've known some interesting councillors. I can only think of one who earned the opprobrium of the whole council, and that was a gentleman who was a Whitcliffe councillor many years ago, and who was even ultimately, I think, thrown out of his own Conservative group because he'd go back into the 80s. And one or two of you, Councillor Harrison, no doubt will remember who I'm talking about. But all of you guys and ladies and women, I really do set my hat off to you and wish you all well, those who are re-standing up against some difficult odds, some of you. And I wish you all the very best. And I wish this town, under whosoever's leadership and guidance, the best for the future. Basildon has changed enormously over the years that I've not only lived here, but been a councillor here. My own area has changed enormously, and is going to change even more. I suspect that nobody here actually wanted that dry street development to go ahead. And it's been a huge challenge, and it's a challenge that we ultimately lost. But I pay due credit to the residents who actually spearheaded that campaign, raised their own finances, and now ultimately have to pay the cost. But that's neither here nor there. Possibly one of my last bit of casework for the council was to get 2 rubbish bins, hopefully put up on the patch. I've been in touch with the resident officers. I hope they won't be my only lasting memorial for 30 odd years of service here. On that note, I'll sit down and shut up, and probably won't say anything more this evening. But I wish you well, all of you, and thank you very much for your friendship and support over the years.
Councillor Harrison.
Can I just say, Jeff Williams, not long while back, when we first met on Basildon Council, along with Phil Ratcliffe, and it was a different council then, people were different. It was a different council then, but Jeff Williams, I think, stands out for what a councillor in Basildon Borough should do. We haven't always agreed, Jeff, but your honesty, your workload, the way you, in the past, it may have diminished a bit in later years, but I can remember when you were in Wickford and other places as well, because councillors, much more then, I think, looked after the whole district as it was then. And I think you're an example to how a councillor on this authority should act over the years. And some people are only here for a short time. You've been here for over 30 years, and I think you've maintained that integrity over nearly all of that time. Can I wish you all the best, Jeff? And it's a pity you're going, but I'm sure you're going to be back, because Alderman Jeff Williams sounds about right to me anyway. I'm sure someone will nominate him.
Councillor Jackman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say, I'd like to wish those councillors who are stepping down, Councillor McGurran, I've always enjoyed your speeches, you're passionate, you're clearly a socialist. It's good to find a real one. And Councillor Scarola as well. I've always worked constructively with you in the committees and other venues that we have had. I do believe that relations between the parties are better. I'm not sure that, and that's personal relationships. I'm not sure if that translates into better politics. And of course, as ever in Basildon, we will have our falling outs, as we always do. And to Jeff Williams, wish you well in your retirement, and Linda as well. Williams have been a long-standing feature of Basildon Council, and he's been very constructive. He's always been very professional, he's always conducted himself exceptionally. His and my views may differ, but he's certainly been a good example of how to conduct yourself and carry on business as a councillor. So to all those councillors stepping down, I wish you well.
Leader of the Council, Councillor Turner.
Mr. Mayor, you can't let an occasion like this go by without offering thanks, and after that thanks come from the heart of the Conservative group. I haven't got any planned retirements in my group, but that's not to say we take it for granted. So what I would say is, I think politics aside, at a time like this, when you've done your term, you've had a season, and you're moving on, however long that season is, I think it probably falls on deaf ears in terms of the residents about what that commitment and sacrifice is, because that is exactly what it is, a commitment and a sacrifice. None of us come here for personal gain, we do it for the benefit of the residents, however we choose to do it. What I would say is, in fairness to Councillor Williams, who's been a councillor longer than I've been alive, can you believe that? Good luck and God bless, because to stay that length of time, and I was saying to you earlier that I've campaigned in Netherlands and it's solely strong, because you can go to doors, and I've had a few where they say, I'm a Tory, but I'm voting for Councillor Williams because he's a good local councillor. That's not what you want to hear. And it wasn't so long ago that Nethermain was called the fiefdom of the Williams, because we had 3 councillors there that were serving in that ward. But I think that was because of the commitment and sacrifice that not only Councillor Williams, Jeff Williams, but the Williams clan gave to Nethermain. So thanks to Jeff, thanks to the others that aren't coming back or aren't coming back this time. And we said goodbye to Nigel Smith, only to see him turn up again. So make sure you guys don't come back. But good luck, and go with our thanks from the Conservative benches. Thank you.
Are there any more Cabinet members wish to speak? Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too would like to pay tribute to those that have served our residents and have, for their own reasons, chosen not to stand again. I too would also like to pay tribute to Councillor Jeff Williams, insofar as I am a Nethermain resident. And for many, many years, Jeff had my vote. For no other reason, basically, than he served the residents of Nethermain very well, in fact, extremely well. And he's a councillor that came across as trustworthy, believable, and very hard-working. So I do particularly, Jeff, I'm sorry if we came along and stole your thunder, but as a councillor, you're very well respected within the ward. I'm fully aware of that, as indeed are your family members. So I wish you all the very best down in the countryside. I'm very envious of that, particularly as we're going to be faced with not sitting in so much countryside. For our Labour councillors, we've enjoyed very much the debates in Chamber. We are obviously opposite ends of the spectrum, but nevertheless, you're all solid socialists, most of you. And I wish you all the very best for the future. Thank you.
Are there any more speakers on? Okay, right, okay. In which case we'll move on to 5, public question time. Can I just say before you start, these must be questions, not statements.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given the council's, this is for Councillor Sargent, given the council's responsibility under the Environment Act to assess local air quality, what monitoring of air quality is there in the borough, and how can the historic data be accessed?
Councillor, please answer the question.
Thank you, Dr. Gibb. Thank you, Mayor. In March 2004, the Council commissioned an automatic roadside monitoring station adjacent to Gloucester Park on the A176 Upperland. This monitored oxides of nitrogen, particles, particulates and sulphur dioxide. This was decommissioned at the end of 2010 following updated screening assessments in 2003, 2006 and 2009, all concluding that the air quality objectives for those pollutants and indeed all 7 of the government's health-based air quality objectives would be met. Historic data can be downloaded from the Essex Air website, and I'll let you have the website address. In 2006, diffuse and tube monitoring for oxides of nitrogen was commenced at a number of sites. Since 2011, monitoring has continued at the following 12 sites, and data from these sites can be accessed via the Essex Air website. And those sites are Pound Lane in Langdon, High Road, Langdon, Connolly Avenue, Whitford, Essex Park, A132, the Leeds, Pitsea, 52 Merricks Lane, Vange, Panadown, Basildon, Delymans, Basildon, Upper Main, Basildon, Harold Gardens, Whitford, Nethernden Road, Whitford, and Honeypot Lane, Basildon. Thank you, Mayor.
Dr. Gibbs, do you have a second question, supplementary question?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. It wasn't clear to me whether the data from those last mentioned monitoring stations is available online. Can you clarify that, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, they are on the website, and I've got that here for Dr. Gibbs, and I'll pass that website over to him. I've actually been on there myself. There's a map of Essex. If you click on Basildon, then it gives you the data where these sites where they can be accessed. Thank you, Mayor.
The next question is question 2, also from Dr. Gibbs of 6 Welbeck Drive, to Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Basildon draft local plan says that future schools provision rests with the Essex County Council, the local education authority. Would you agree that according to the free school presumption, as described in government guidelines published in February 2016, the council should seek proposals for free schools before relying on the Essex County Council for schools provision?
Councillor Moore, would you like to answer, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Dr. Gibbs is well aware, we are currently consulting on the draft local plan, and this is really a question that should be formally submitted by him as a response to the local plan. That way, any wording changes that are necessary to make it compliant with legislation can be implemented through the redrafting process of the formal documentation.
Dr. Gibbs, do you have a second question?
No, I don't, thank you.
Move on to question 3, Leader of the Council.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question reads, given the Leader of the Council has recently been quoted in the press that he is in favour of Lower Thames Crossing, even though he accepts there will be significant pollution problems irrespective of the final option that's chosen, what steps will be proposed to improve air quality for the residents south of the A127, given the additional loss of greenbelt that will take place with the West Basildon urban extension proposals? Of course, there's a couple of things I just want to point out in that question, if I may, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I think taking this into context, Lower Thames Crossing looks like it's going to happen. So I don't think there's a body that are going back to oppose it. It looks like it's going to happen. And in terms of me accepting significant pollution problems, yeah, unfortunately that's going to come with the road. However, it isn't confined to south of the A127. We know that there's pollution problems caused by Kent that drift over to this part of the world as well. So it isn't confined to borders. But in respect to the Lower Thames Crossing, the Council's formal response is due to be signed by Councillor Moore sometime before the 24th of March. So that response is still ongoing, and that will be published as and when Councillor Moore finalises that. And it will consider how to manage air quality in the local environment, and that the crossing and its supported routes, where it will be most effective. So in respect of the draft local plan, and which the West Basildon urban extension relates, and I'd just like to make a point there as well. If we're talking about so-called Dunton Garden suburbs, remember please that not all of it is ours. We oppose the part that Brentwood are trying to play in putting that onto the back of Basildon, but we do have an extension in that area. And that whole extension, it will be the local environment management planning policies that are applied to that development, including but not limited to pollution control and residential amenity. It already recognises that the main source of air pollution in the borough is traffic emissions, and that the current proposals are to manage this through prioritising accessible development locations and improving the local highway route to reduce congestion. And I just point out as well that you may recall that a highly publicised campaign that we partnered with the Yellow Advertiser on air pollution, and that was to make sure that in the local plan we had a provision to improve the air quality and reduce carbon emissions through tree planting and new green infrastructure, and these are set out to be delivered alongside the new development including south of the A127. Thank you.
Mr. Fellows, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, but I think in part it has been answered. It was the Highways England consultation on the Lower Thames Crossing ends on the 24th of March 2016. Is Basildon Borough Council going to make an official submission to the consultation? And if so, what is the Council's position on option C with regard to what are known as Route 2, Route 3 and Route 4.
I think I have just answered that. You'll have to wait until Councillor Moore is ready, but it will be done by the 24th. Thank you.
Thank you.